Another episode of Sweet Jesus. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is sweeter. Here from the Open Arms Podcast Studio.
We're back.
We are back. That is right. Should have offered you ice cream, but you're like healthy. You want some?
No, that's good. I'll get some after. How about that?
All right. We got Haagen-Dazs bars, ice cream sandwiches, Oreo cookie sandwiches, icy pops things. So start thinking about it, salivating about it now. I actually already had my fill today. I found some Oreos, and so I had Oreos and milk. Probably far too many Oreos and milk.
You know, Oreos is one of the, I think it's a product that is banned by several countries. They won't even let them sell it. It's because it's got so many different, just to let you know, not that I'm all that healthy, but.
Well, if I
Twinkies is another one.
Unexpectedly pass out and die in the next 45 minutes, that's probably why then, I guess.
You will be preserved for as long as the pharaohs and the tombs.
Oh, there's that too, yeah. But this is an encouragement to get yourself something sweet and pull up a chair, listen in as we do something a little bit different, talking about a little adventure that I had recently.
Like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Was it you? Or maybe it was Axel, actually. He said something to me about, or I had him in the car and I was on the phone with somebody and they're like, don't let it be Pee-wee's Big. There was a definite reference to Pee-wee's Big Adventure during the trip.
Well, for one thing, you had his bicycle in your trunk.
I had his bicycle in my trunk. Yes, I did.
It was not in it had not been stolen yet, but
no.
And it was not in the basement of the Alamo.
Maybe basement of the Alamo. Oh, well, maybe that's what it was. Maybe he said it because we were talking about like where he was going to put this thing. And he didn't want it to get stolen like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Maybe that's what it was. I don't remember. I
hate to say Axel and I are very close to the same age. That's why we understand each other's references to those things like that.
He's interesting bird. Yeah. But, I mean, that was an 80s thing for kids, too. So
yeah.
But we had a big adventure last week. I was gone because Axel wanted to go home to St. Cloud, Missouri, Minnesota. Sorry, I drove through
Missouri.
Yeah, misery is. No, it wasn't that bad, but that's a thing people say about misery, because they say it kind of funny. So
what prompted this? Wild adventure or wild and crazy adventure or just a big adventure, I guess.
The Axel's big adventure, Emil's big adventure. Yeah, he said, I didn't know this for a while, but apparently he was really annoying some of the people here that were trying to.
No, they're not Axel.
That's not why the whole trip. No, but he was annoying them about this idea that he had that he wanted to go home.
Okay.
Home, to St. Cloud, kind of where he grew up. And he was talking about some bus ticket thing for a while, and I'm like, what is he talking about? Because he says a lot. Yeah. And sometimes he's just like saying things and he's quiet and he's mumbling and you're like having another conversation. He's like saying and interrupting and you only catch half of it, and then later on he's like, well, that's what that was about, and blah, blah. You're like, what are you talking about? So there was something about a bus ticket for a long time, and then I realized, he wants to go back to Minnesota. And what he told me initially was that he wanted to find his family so he could tell them about Jesus.
Nice.
Yeah, he's real slick. He's a real confidence man, as they call him. He knows exactly what to say to a pastor, like, I just want to tell people about Jesus. I just What? To share the gospel.
So he's like one of the apostles on his mission trip to
Well,
St. Cloud.
That's what he said. That's what he said. And he doesn't seem to be like false, like intentionally deceptive about things.
Mm-hmm.
He's been hanging around here for years now. So, I mean, we're his people. We got him at one point. We had him in that group home out in Hammond. That didn't last, and I think part of it was he was just too far away. And all his people, not just us, but like the lady at the Circle K, the lady at the hospital lunch cafeteria, whatever, that he goes to every now and then, buys something so he can.
The
use
lady
the
at the taco truck.
The lady and the guy at the taco truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two of them, the couple that kind of own it. Yeah, he's just all those people, and he just keeps walking around all day and bumping into these people, stopping and talking to them, and he clearly has a lot that he wants to say. And so, mercifully, God helps him spread it out to all these different people.
He could meet a few dozen more people.
He could meet a lot more people and still have plenty more to say. And I was in a car alone with him for like 20-something hours. So he had nobody else to talk to but me. Anyway, so he wanted to go say, hey, Jesus has changed my life, and I want to tell them about Jesus. That was kind of how he framed it. And, I guess maybe I'm a sucker.
Was there a West? Oh, go ahead.
I did write a book with my buddy Bruce here, Open Arms, Connecting People to Jesus. It was around that time. It had been out a little bit and trying to talk about it and everything. I'm like, well, my God, he wants to tell people about Jesus. How am I going to stand in the way? That's the book. It says it's the most important thing. So I said yes, and we delayed him and delayed him and delayed him and delayed him. He got into an apartment. He got himself settled there. He got his Social Security checks coming. He got his Medicaid and all these other things kind of lined up. His health, he had to have some things taken care of. So we were kind of waiting for all that. And Easter for me, I didn't really want to go up there in the winter either, although it felt basically like winter, even though we were there in May.
So how does the movie True Grit play into this? It sounds like this is like a wagon train type of a story.
True Grit. Burning Daylight. That was, I sent you that at some point. True Grit.
He thought he was Rooster Cogburn. And
yeah, so this whole thing, like we were supposed to leave after church. I sent it to him a few times, like, hey, this is the plan. This is the schedule. I got a place for us to stay in Missouri. At the seminary that I actually went to. You get guest housing there. It's super cheap. So I tell him all this, and then Sunday comes, and I'm like, hey, you ready? We're going to go get your stuff and leave. And he's like, oh, today? It's like,
oh, really?
Yes, today. Like, I made all these reservations. I took the pictures and sent them to you and wrote out this whole thing.
I think he was just yanking on your chain there with that one.
No, because it was a few times it came up, so he was definitely like confused about it because he wasn't ready, and so I took him back to his apartment, his house, or whatever, getting his stuff, and he's like kind of frantic, and then later on he's talking about how I forgot this. It's like, well, because I thought we were leaving tomorrow. I was like, oh, so. We get in the car, and I was driving. I was kind of looking forward to this because, hey, it's an adventure. It's he wants to tell people about Jesus, and just his whole story is kind of like a weird thing. Like, who does this? I don't know. But who has a guy like Axel I mean, like, it actually sort of works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's just weird. Like, I mean, we're weird. He's weird. Like, it's all just like
How did he get here? And then how did this happen? It just.
he's not your typical homeless person.
Yeah.
He was not. I say this whenever I am telling people about this story, which there were people up there that were wondering how I got into all this. I stayed with some friends on the way back, and I went to a church in St. Cloud to try and say, hey, so there's this guy that I just brought up here. He was homeless. He's not anymore. Here's the story. Lay this whole thing out. And one of the things I tell him about, just to give him an idea, like, he didn't want anything initially when he first showed up on our doorstep, literally. And it was Christmas Eve. I'd been here 6-7 months. He'd been here at least, close to that long. We'd been bumping into each other. He was sleeping on our bench. And it was really cold that night. And I'd finished up church, and I'm shutting off all the lights, locking all the doors, and I see him out there getting tucked in for the night on the bench. I'm like, dude, it's Christmas Eve. Let me get you a motel or something like that, right? Because he's not asking for anything. This guy was putting money in our offering.
Mm.
Like, here's $1 for this. Here's $2 for that. Here's, what do I do with this? How do I put it? I'm like, well, there's the offering basket. Here's an envelope, And actually, every once in a while, Lisa asks me, like, who's, like, some weird name. And, like, one was, like, Mena Soter or something like that, Menna, and then, like, or, like, something weird like that. And I'm like, Mena, what? I don't know anyone named Mena. And then I'll look at it. I said, send me a picture. And I'll see it's his handwriting. And then you say it fast, like, oh, it's like Minnesota or something. Minna, whatever. And so he still does stuff like that all the time, plays little jokes and everything. So Christmas Eve, I go out there. I'm trying to get him to take a motel room. It's going to be really cold for Louisiana. And he says, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to rest his head. If there was no room in the inn for my Savior, then I am staying right here. It's like, whoa. This dude just quoted the Bible at me.
Hit you where it hurts, huh?
Yeah. And, I'm not saying that we should all just sell our homes and live on the street necessarily, but it does make you think that maybe what I think I need isn't what I need, or is more than what I really, quote, need,
Mm-hmm.
So he was just an interesting guy from the beginning, and eventually he gets sober, he gets cleaned up, and gets in this house that he's been living in now for 6-8 months, and wants to go back and evangelize his family, but also he kind of hates the heat. He's from Minnesota, and I think it's also freedom. So people living on the street are sometimes on the street for a reason, like on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Probably about 10, 12 years ago, I was at my first congregation, and this guy showed up, not like your normal homeless person, somewhat more cleaned up, but also like kind of a disheveled, normal, quote, normal person, whatever that means. And he was like, hey, I'm a hobo, which is like a specific thing. And I just am passing through town and just wondering if there's anything you can do to help me. Whatever you can do, great. I'm not looking for money. I'm not looking for, like, kind of a weird interaction, because everyone's like, oh, we got lost on our way to Las Vegas or something, and we're stuck, and I need gas to do this, or the car broke down, or I got thrown out of my parents threw me out, or, all these elaborate stories that are usually almost entirely lies, or old stories that they're using years later because it helps them get stuff. But he was just very direct, straightforward. Like, apparently there's like a network of, like a hobo network, like people that are intentionally living kind of on the road and just living off the kindness of strangers, essentially. And here's all the spots where you can get free. This is where you can go and find a bathroom. This is where you can probably find a shower. This is where you can probably get a good cup of coffee. And here's where you can, and they just bounce around like that. Now, I don't know that that's what Axel was, but, he didn't seem to need much. And so he hung out on our bench, but we got him in all these places. Oh, and then freedom, I think, is where this whole thing started. Like, freedom. He just enjoyed freedom. And maybe that was something, the hobo up in Maryland where I was 12 years ago, just freedom. And now he's got this place and he's stuck inside there and he wants to be able to have some freedom. Hey, everybody else gets to go home to their family every once in a while. Everybody else gets to take a little vacation. Why can't I? Why am I now a prisoner in my
trying to make
home?
him a cog in the machine, huh?
Yeah, well, I think he slept outside for
quite a while.
For a long time. He might still be, like when he was, just before we left, he may have still been sleeping outside. I actually hadn't asked him about that in a while.
Yeah, he was sleeping out on the patio of the apartment he was living in.
Back deck.
The back deck, yeah.
So something about it, just wants his freedom. And then the more we're helping and the more we're saying, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. It's like just, and I spent enough time with him to figure out that this guy is probably dealing with significant childhood, adult trauma stuff. He's a third generation alcoholic, I believe. I kind of knew that before the trip. And, kids of an alcoholic are asked to be very grown up pretty early on. And there's a lot of baggage that comes with that. So it's kind of miraculous that he turned out as normal as he is. Yeah, he's really not, but for a street person, a homeless person, yeah, he's relatively normal. But he wanted to do this, and the longer it took, the more anxious and nasty and angry and frustrated he was getting. And I was like, no, it's okay, we're going to go. And then we lost a staff person, so I was like, okay, well, we're definitely going before summer camp. And then it basically left this 1 week. So that's why last week. Camp started yesterday. We're doing chapel every day. So, that's why last week. But
so you left here because you were burning daylight, so it wasn't
wasn't
quite as early as he thought, even though you said he wasn't quite ready.
Well, and so one of the other reasons I was kind of interested is I have a Tesla, and I've never done a road trip, and I was just curious, like, if this is a thing, because I love the car. Everybody should have a Tesla. You just should. It's just amazing. But the one thing is, how do I convince my wife to trade in hers for a Tesla?
Yeah, because you do a lot of road trips in the other car.
Exactly, the gas
a couple
car,
of big ones anyway.
And she would prefer that, but I just hate driving that thing now because I've been driving the Tesla, and the Tesla is just a totally different experience. So why would I want to slum it in an ICE vehicle, internal combustion engine ICE vehicle, when I could? But what is it like going on a road trip? And there were a lot of things I had to figure out. It's not as predictable, but it is more relaxing, because you are stopping more frequently, but you enjoy the trip a little more. It's more of an experience than what I usually do, which is like, everybody get a car. Don't move. Don't you drink a drop of water. Don't you, like.
Okay, we're stopping for gas. Everybody in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Everybody get a snack.
You
Everybody.
have 60 seconds to get back to this car, or we will leave without you. No, I don't say that actually, but that's the impression that I'm sure I'm giving. And definitely not stopping if we don't have to. So we'll go.
Yeah, you have to combine
long
gas
as we
and
can.
food stops all at the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
No, you're not eating a thing until we get for gas. You're on the
Exactly.
same schedule as the car.
Yep. And this is obviously very different from that. And that first day, I had never done this. So I'm looking at what it says, but I'm like, well, why would I only charge for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes until the next one? And it is a fast charger, these Tesla superchargers, which, by the way, don't ever use any of the other ones. Those things are useless. Oh, my gosh, they're so terrible.
They have like generic ones out there.
Yeah, most of them don't even work,
Hmm.
like the really fast ones. But so I kind of wanted to experiment with this. So it was kind of interesting. Like, yeah, it'd be great to do a road trip and see what happens. I get to stop and see a couple of people on the way down, the way back. But for a variety of reasons, leaving later than we thought because he wasn't expecting to leave, me not quite getting the gist of how this whole charging thing is going to work and following sort of the path that the navigation system had for us. And so we ended up arriving maybe an hour and a half later than I had originally thought I would get to this place, to the seminary.
That could be traffic,
Well, and so that was the other thing. So there was one spot. There were two spots. Early on, we hit like completely stopped traffic for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and then starting to slowly move. And then there was an accident right in front of us on this tiny little 2-lane bridge. No shoulder, nothing. And so we were just literally stopped for 20, 30 minutes before they could get emergency stuff and then drag the car out of the way and keep the emergency personnel from, getting hurt, being in danger, whatever, with all these cars kind of flying by. So, those didn't help either, just all this stuff. So I thought we'd be there like 10, 15 in my head when I was thinking about this ahead of time. But then we started later. We had these accidents. I'm trying to figure out the charging. It's like 11:30, 11:45 when we finally get there. The lady with the guest housing had told me, hey, if you're here before 11, no problem. We got there after 11. Lots of problems.
Oh, man.
And then this security people, I mean, they were pretty useless. So there was a tornado also that went through the campus or nearby the campus a few days before that. So there were tree people, coming through and like big crews, multiple trucks, and everyone was probably sleeping and waiting for daylight to come so that they could get back to work. And all of these things conspired against us so that finally at like 12:15, 12:30, maybe 12:45, I was just like, I'm not waiting for these idiots to figure out how to get me into that room. Let's look at this thing. What's the next stop? Let's go to the next charger. All right. So we start heading to the next charger, and then I'm like, yeah, I probably should still stop, like not just drive all the way through. That's probably not a good idea.
Right.
So we start calling around while we're charging, looking for a place to stay. I found this Holiday Inn Express. We got there. It's 2 o'clock in the morning before we lay our heads down. And
how is Axel tolerating all of this?
he's not good with being thrown off course.
Mm.
Yeah. And really, I don't like it. Nobody likes it, but
Right.
he seemed to handle it pretty well.
Okay. Well, that's good.
But then, it's like 2:00 in the morning. Well, by 8:00, he's harassing me about like, hey, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Let's get back on the road.
Slap that bacon on a biscuit and let's get on the move.
Yeah.
Something, I can't remember the line. It was something like that from one of his movies. John Wayne. Mm-hmm. Very good. So that was the first day.
That was the first leg of the trip. And actually daylight mattered because where we were, our ultimate destination was a campground in St. Cloud.
Okay. This was going to be day 2? You were going to get there on day 2?
And we needed daylight to set up his tent.
Ah.
And I was going to sleep in my Tesla. Put it in camp mode. Nice climate control all night long.
It actually has that?
Yeah. It keeps it running without running everything.
Right. Right.
So, like, when you get into the car, it's running everything, getting ready to drive. But camp mode just essentially allows you to sleep in it, stay cozy, which actually was great. It was pretty cool to be able to do that. And it didn't use a whole lot of energy in the battery. Like, I think it's at 1 or 2% an hour, maybe. And I feel like it was less than whatever I was worried it would be.
So how was the drive for the second leg? Uneventful? It kind of went
pretty uneventful. That was much better. God had more in store when we got to the campground.
Okay. So you can like fast forward through that the drive of the second day, and then you get there and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Was it dark when you got there? Was he putting on his tent?
Like an hour or so of daylight left.
Oh, that's plenty of time to put up a tent.
So, yeah, exactly. His tent was lickety-split. And then I realized, like, oh, well, I don't have a tent, but I do have to, like, set up my car. Like, I got to lay the seats down. I got to roll out the mats that I had to sleep on and, rearrange the luggage, all the junk that we had, take out his bike, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. We did have his bike. The wheels were off, which made it really easy to slide it in.
You didn't run into Large Marge anywhere along the way, did you?
Just tell him Large Marge sent you. I forget. I made a reference to Large Marge at some point. Well, I think when he said something about Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I was like, oh, that's like my favorite line of the whole movie. She turns into this monster. But he, so we get there and put up his tent. I get my car ready, and it starts to rain.
Mm.
And he was kind of messing around or wanting to make things a certain way for a little bit. And I was like, I looked at the weather and I said, actually, it's going to rain in an hour or like a half an hour. Like, we got to get this done. So we get it done. But then now I'm trying to set myself up. And it starts to rain a little bit, just a little bit. But then through the night, it rained.
Oh, wow.
It rained, and I was fine. But in the morning at like 6:30, he's like pounding on my car. And
You made the laugh track go?
I made the laugh track go on the soundboard. Yeah, he's like pounding on my car. Change our plans. I'm getting a motel.
Scared him a little bit.
So
did he get wet? Did it leak?
Oh, he got wet.
Oh.
Yeah. And when he tried to explain it to me, he's like, yeah, it's my fault. Like, I brought it in when I came in or when I opened the flap or something on the tent.
Mm.
But after we got him squared away in a motel and I went back to take down his tent and everything when it had finally stopped raining or was raining less, it was like a flood in there, like a good inch of water in the bottom of the. So I don't know if that's what it looked like when he was in there or not, but it was terrible. So he decided to get this motel. That was like one of our first things in the morning, but not our very first thing. So he was, oh, maybe I'll get a place, like a storage unit, and put all my stuff in there, and I can just go back and forth when I need stuff. We tried a couple of motels that were just not even open anymore, because he hadn't been there in 5, 6, 7 years. So things had changed a little bit, but not everything. So we're going around all these places, and finally I was like, all right, I need breakfast. Stopped at Starbucks, got myself a latte and a breakfast sandwich, and he wanted something at Walmart. We went to Walmart, and then he says, let's see if I can find his nephew. So it's like 8:30 in the morning, and maybe this is before Starbucks and Walmart. I don't know the whole timeline. But yeah, just drive here, drive there. He'd been doing all this, and he's like, oh, let's see if my nephew's still where he was. So we pull up to this house, and it's pouring rain. It's 45 degrees, feels like 25 is what it said on the weather app. And he's like, yeah, I think that's it. Does that look like it could have been a garden before? Back up. Was there a garage down back there? And I don't know how long we were sitting outside this house. It was a long time. It felt like a long time. And he's like, yeah, I should check. Opens the door. And then he kind of doesn't. He gets back in. He's like, nah. What did you say where we were? The address? Because he was thinking it was this one area. And I was like, no, that's over here. We're at this place, according to where my little blue dot is in Google Maps. And that's when he's like, we'll try another place later. I was like, well, we've been sitting here for 20 minutes. Like, just knock on the stinking door, What's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, it's pouring rain. They've been staring at us. They're maybe wondering what's going on, but, I don't think it's dangerous. Just knock on the door. Just see what happens. So he finally goes up. He rings the doorbell. Nothing. And I'm kind of like, he said 33rd and 3rd. This is not 33rd and 3rd. This is probably the wrong house. But, whatever. Nothing happens up there. I'm like, all right. Kind of paying attention. Not even hardly paying attention. Rings the doorbell again. Still nothing. And then I look back, and the door's open, and some dude is like poking his head out, kind of like, what are you doing here? That's what I thought he was doing. And then all of a sudden I turn around again, and he's out, and he gives Axel this giant bear hug. I was like, oh, so he just didn't recognize it. They didn't recognize each other or whatever. And so, of course, I didn't have my camera or anything ready. So I got a picture afterward, blocked by the umbrella he had, of these two random guys not standing that close to each other, like.
The avid reporter on his mission.
Yeah. So it was his nephew. We got a phone number. And, he's like, I'll be in touch. We'll be back, whatever. We got to find a motel. This is terrible. So we eventually found him a motel, got him a couple of nights because it was going to be miserable for at least a couple of days. And I said, yeah, I'll just stay in my Tesla. Or I could leave from my friend's house a little bit earlier and just kind of hit the road a little bit. So finally I decided to hit the road. I pack up everything. I get in the Tesla. I bring it to him at the motel. And he asked me to take the tent to his nephew. But he's also saying he hasn't been able to get through in the phone number. I'm like, we had tried, a number of people, here had tried to find his family before we went and at other times. And they couldn't find good numbers for him. And now he's telling me that it's sort of an out-of-service number every time he dials it. So I'm like, did he not want anything to do with him? What's going on? And I said, give me the number. Let me try. And I text the number. Hey, he wants me to drop something off. What's your address? because I didn't know the address. He's just go left, go right, here, stop. That's all I got.
Mm.
And he immediately responds with the address.
Hmm.
So I look at Axel's phone, and he didn't put in the full address.
Oh.
The full phone number. Like, it was minus the area code.
Oh.
So the first 3 numbers are in the area code, and then the next 3, and then the 4th is in the next section, but there's still 3 numbers missing, kind of thing, It's like, Axel, what are you doing? Let me put it. So I put it in right, and he's got arthritis bad. His fingers. I mean, it's amazing this man still gets around the way he does.
Mm-hmm.
Although he did seem to notice, like, oh, climbing into a tent isn't what it used to be. I was like, this is what you wanted to do. You want to do this. So
Did he have his bear spray?
yeah, his bear spray, just in case. Just in case. So I put it in right. I said, call him before I leave. Just call him. He calls him. He picks up right away. Oh, hey, yeah, where are you? Oh, you're at this America's Best something in whatever. I'm coming over.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on his way over when I was leaving, and so I felt good about it. And it sounds like they had been in contact a bunch after I left. I've been texting with him a little bit. So, and before I left, I'm walking out, and he's like, yeah, so I already kind of tried to talk to him about, Jesus and some other things, and he may actually come to church with me. I was like, oh, that was another thing I did at some point. I stopped at the church because I wasn't getting anywhere with emails. And I'm explaining to this guy how I know this guy. And I'm also at the same time like, oh my goodness, 20 hours in a car with this guy, it was really hard. And so I don't think he knew what to do with me. And he's like, well, we're not going to do what you're doing. I was like, well, I'm not asking you to do that. He probably won't ask you to do that. But like, if for some reason, like he needed a ride somewhere, or just the fact that he might show up at church, you should know that, he's legit. Like he's straightened out a lot, and he's got a lot of people back here that care about him and all that sort of thing. And, here's my contact information. Let me know if you notice anything. So I actually didn't ask him yet, hey, did you actually go to church on Sunday? And did he take you? And how did it go? And so it was a mild success. Yeah.
Sounds like an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely does. So there's was there a verse that you were thinking about that related to all of this?
I don't know. You got one? There's a lot of them.
Well, you definitely left the 99 to.
There you go. Left the 99 for the 1. Yeah. Luke 15. Matthew, I think it's 18, like the very beginning of 18 is a similar one with sheep. And
whatever you do for the least of these.
Matthew 25, yeah, you did it for me.
You think Jesus would ask you to take him on a road trip with your Tesla?
I hope he would allow me to use a vehicle of some kind. I mean, he walked. Right?
Yeah.
And his disciples got up and,
You might be able to just like put some power in your battery. Enough with this stopping. We got to get where we're going. And
like E.T.
Yeah.
Glowing finger.
Pretty soon it's instantaneously charged or something.
I want him to put like solar panels in the glass on the roof. Just constantly charging all the time.
Yeah.
Especially because those things bake in the sun, as I'm noticing in mild climate here in Louisiana. So
when did his first Sunday would have been this past Sunday?
This past Sunday, yeah.
And when did you get back home?
Saturday night, pretty late.
Okay.
Yeah. But I listened to a book. Most of a book, audiobook on the way back. It was about, people that have complicated, traumatic experiences, pasts, upbringing, childhood, And just listening to it, it really feels like most of society's problems stem from like developmental trauma, childhood
Hmm.
trauma, dealing with. I mean, there's like this incredibly high correlation of people that have like schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder. I didn't get a chance to write all this down. I'm listening to it, but there was some strong connection between that and, significant childhood trauma.
Hmm.
Stuff that, I mean, just hearing about it on this audio on the way home, that it's like, it just drains you thinking about it, hearing about it, that this stuff has happened to people, and the way that, when the safest people in your life, or the people that are supposed to be the safest people in your life, turn out not to be safe, really, and then you have to figure out ways to essentially survive because you actually need them to stay alive, and yet at the same time, they're the most dangerous people you know. And so your mind has to like do these weird things. Your body does these weird things to try, and it's self-preservation. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's how, like, they sometimes don't even know this by the time they become adults. Like, they've already blocked it out
Mm-hmm.
because you can't exist and know this. Like, you can't exist in the same relationship with all these different people if you are consciously aware of this. So your mind does all kinds of weird things to keep you from, experiencing the full weight of the horror.
Right.
And then just think about, well, that's like schizophrenia or borderline personality disorder. That's what's happening, like this fragmentation of a person. And not just that. I mean, post-traumatic stress type things, anger, rage, paranoia, all these things are all related. And it seems like, I don't know exactly what Axel went through, but I'm sure it wasn't a walk in the park for him growing up. Divorced parents, both. I don't know. I forget if it was his mother. I'm pretty sure. Sounds like she was alcoholic. I don't know about his biological father, but the guy who was like his dad, essentially, or his stepdad, or something like that, for a short period of time, not his entire child. Even he was kind of messed up in alcohol abuse and all kinds of other stuff. And maybe his grandmother was an alcoholic as well. So that's why I say like 3 generations of this. And it does sort of get passed down. If you don't work out your stuff, then you replicate a lot of those bad behaviors that end up affecting the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. So it kind of made me feel for him a lot more, that, knowing that he's just like, why does he need to control things so much? Because he lived a childhood that was out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He wants order because there was no order. He is constantly aware of danger and potential mishaps and things like that. He gets kind of easily frustrated and nasty because he can't even speak what he's trying to communicate.
Mm.
And there's a spot that I had just finished. I forget what chapter it was in this book, but the parts of the brain that get activated and deactivated by the way a child, their body, their mind responds to all these traumatic things. One of the things that happens is it basically disconnects the verbal part from some of these other parts of your brain. So you can remember how you felt, but not be able to put it into words. Like this really bizarre phenomenon that, how this plays out.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a hard time sometimes putting things into words, and he's acting mad at you sometimes, like, there were times just like, just letting him do his whatever rage thing he's doing right now. And like, I know, like, that's literally what I'm saying. That's literally what I'm trying to do. That's literally, but he's also kind of mad at himself, I think, because he wants to be able to communicate and he can't communicate and he just, so it gave me a different perspective on this, gave me a different perspective on all the other people out there that are out there, begging for money and stuff. And you think like, well, why should I give you $5 when I know you're just going to spend it on booze? Well, a lot of these people that they're talking about in this book, they may be veterans that are dealing with post-traumatic stress, or people that have been through crazy stuff in their childhood. And there are things that they don't know how to not remember. So the only way they cannot remember,
to numb it all. Huh?
Exactly. And so I'm almost where I'm like, if you've been through something that horrific and you still haven't figured out how to process this, and all you just need some alcohol to numb it a little bit, like, all right, well, if you use the $5 for alcohol, I mean, I won't stop you. But I do hope you get more help than that.
Right.
Just, yeah. And I think that's right where I had left off. This guy was just starting to try and make the case, essentially, for some of the things that they do in Europe to support parents and families that in America, I mean, it seems like there might be people that would be open to this, but as a whole, I don't think there's a whole lot of support for it, at least not yet. But giving a mother, guaranteeing a year to be home, with a new child, allowing dad to have a significant amount of time there too, coaching, like actually having people that help coach parents, and lots of other things that essentially help parents, or at least minimize the impact of people that don't really know what they're doing and that are having kids. And the case the author's making is like, hey, there are far fewer mental health issues there than there are here. There's far fewer people incarcerated there than here. There's all these indicators, and he is making the case that it's essentially about childhood trauma. That if we could help people figure this stuff out, if we could support them through some sort of process, most of the things that we think they are really just, most of the things we think people are struggling with are really not about the thing that's driving you nuts, like a kid that acts like ADD, ADHD, or ODD, or all these other diagnoses, right? No, actually, it's probably something else. Anxiety, whatever. These are all secondary to something else that might actually be going on. Not necessarily, but and the scandal of the psychiatric community, or the American Psychiatric Association, or whoever comes up with, there's this thing called the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. It's like probably about this big, maybe bigger. And it's filled with every single kind of classification of anything you can think of, right? Anything that a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a mental health professional might come across, and how to help them help their patients. Man, are they stubborn, hard-headed idiots.
Why? Well, they got it all laid out. Why isn't they not using it now, or they're changing?
Because it's just like all the things that we're dealing with right now with this whole Make America Healthy Again thing. the conflicts of interest and the I don't know what the right word. Not like it's not nepotism because it's not family. It's not cronyism or like you just begin to the institutions and organizations and whatnot begin to serve themselves and perpetuate their existence rather than find truth,
Right.
or
Right.
find the best solution. You know,
Mm.
they didn't they didn't want to hold up the publication of the next manual because they'd make $1 billion on it or something, or 100 million, or
Whatever,
I forget what the number was, some ridiculous amount of money, because millions of people would have to buy this new edition. And he and his team, and he got all these people together and they did all these studies and everything and said, we want this new thing in there, and here's the evidence why. And their response just so idiotic. Like
You missed the deadline. Sorry.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just like, we don't want to miss the deadline, and this is going to make us rethink everything.
Oh, okay.
And we don't really want to rethink everything. We like feeling like we know it all. We like,
Yeah. That's the case in a lot of things. It finds out. It seems like the more knowledge we gain, then you have experts, and then you go and try. If something new comes along and tries to upset the apple cart of that area of expertise, they lose their minds.
Yep.
Because they're experts, and we've studied it, and we've learned this, and this is what it is, and the flag has been planted, and we're, that's what it is, and we're just going with it, and it's not changing. But that's not science.
No, it's not. I think we should consistently upset the experts. That's what I think now.
But then you have chaos, so then that's not always so good either, right? You want to have spots where you stop and say, okay, this is where we are.
Well, but the problem is both of those things can't, like, as soon as you say, oh, well, we don't want chaos, no matter what you do, it becomes this, like, club. It begins to serve itself, and it begins to, support the current thinking. Like it just does.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need constant, you don't want chaos, but you do need these, like, regular revolutions of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
Academic, intellectual revolutions. Not in every sense, because, like, right now we're talking about make America healthy again and make America great again. And, we've got, on the one hand, upsetting established experts and organizations that have come to these great conclusions that a lot of people think are just baloney. And then at the same time, going back to some common set of norms, like, let's go back to something. Let's keep it there. So, like, revolutionary and counter-revolutionary, or anti-revolutionary, like,
mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what you're talking about. I don't know. But all I know is I was, like, super, super angry listening to this description. Like, they what? Like, for the second or third time? Now, I'm not done with the book, so maybe it gets resolved.
Right.
Well, it wouldn't, though, because I don't know. It depends on what volume they're up to. Like, so it's like DSM 1, 2, 3, 4. I forget what they're up to, 5 maybe. And it may have been that the one he was talking about was 4, which means maybe he got corrected in 5, or it was 5, and we still haven't gotten a new one yet, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although they might be itching to get $1 billion, so why would they wait longer than they need to? But yeah, just things like that, and
They need to, in software development, the thing is agile development or agile development. And that's where, in the past, you did like this waterfall method, and you're going to develop this new system or this new product, like, which is, they're coming up with this manual. And by the time you gather all the requirements and get it all worked out and get everybody in agreement, everybody signed off, it's proved the developers can do it. The technology has changed. The requirements have changed. Suddenly, what you just spent all that time building was something for 3 years ago. And yeah, we can go forward with it, but you're developing a 3-year-old product.
Yeah.
By the time you get it implemented, it'll be 5 years old or 4 years old or something. So they're trying to their solution is this agile development where it's ongoing development. Like you do things in 2-week sprints, they call them. So you develop a set of requirements, boom, you implement them in 2 weeks, and then they test it and whatever, and you go forward with it. And then you just keep rolling it out. It's like you never really stop. So it's almost similar, it sounds like they need to do, have another method for developing this thing so that.
But how long does it take to do studies, and how long does it, to analyze that and organize, prepare it, actually carry it out? But
that's probably where AI will come in, because it'll be able to process
process
the data and put out something that's readable in much faster time than people. Yeah. I don't know. But then, do you trust it?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We are going to be living in some very interesting times here soon.
So don't imminent. build your house on a rock and not on shifting sand. Is that what basically a person's life was? That kind of what it sounded like when you were. If people's lives are constantly shifting at a young age, it's not on a foundational. It's going to come down at some point.
How do you help them build on the rock when you don't have access to them until they're already beaten up and abused and whatever? And
yeah. Jordan Peterson was saying something like, if a child isn't socialized by the time they're, between 3 and 4 years old,
it's problems.
Yeah, they won't be. They will always have problems. So, yeah, it kind of goes.
So, the book didn't say that all the homeless people in the world have these issues, right? Some people are highly functional. In fact, many are, because they had to learn. They grew up very fast.
Mm-hmm.
They were taking care of their parents. If your parent's an alcoholic, you end up taking care of your parents. You're cooking your own dinner at 6. You're
right.
So they tend to be highly functional people too. So this isn't just like, because I don't know how many homeless people are going to listen to this. So I would just say, like, if you are a person that is maybe an overachiever in some ways, overly organized, struggles to have strong connections, feels very paranoid, very vigilant, right? Because that's what you have to learn to be. You have to be constantly vigilant about your surroundings and assessing who's safe and who's not. If you feel like you're kind of reliving some things over and over again, the faces change, the names change, but the characters are essentially the same. The inability to enjoy life and like a numb feeling, like a natural, like you don't necessarily need alcohol to feel numb. Like you just have this kind of, you just don't get you don't have these bouts of joy as much as maybe other people do. I don't know, there's a lot of things, but you should probably read the book, and you should probably get some professional counseling, because there's a possibility that you're dealing with something you don't even realize you're dealing with. And man, there are some ways to deal with this stuff. Veterans, that's where he started the whole book. He started in a VA hospital. If you're a veteran and you're struggling with these things and you keep like reliving moments, and it's affecting you and your family. Get some help. There's help out there. This book is like 11 years old.
Mm.
So I would hope that, by the end of the book, I'll find out that they made some progress. I can look it up. I haven't looked it up yet. Like, where did it go from the book? Like, where is this kind of research and, this vein within psychiatry and psychology? Like, where is it heading? Has it gotten any stronger? Is it getting more acceptance now? And how do people find help with this stuff? So,
yeah, see, one of the problems that's been stated is that, they take people into the military and train them to become war machines, but when it's over with, it's like, okay, there you go.
mm-hmm.
And they just basically let them loose. And, it's almost like you need a detraining so they can function back in society, because that's what things I've listened to is the guy say, yeah, I mean, suddenly I was cut loose and I was like, now what am I supposed to do? In fact, there was a story of a veteran. Oh, it was, I think, well, maybe I shouldn't claim it's this person, but there was a veteran who went to Vietnam at 18, spent whatever time in Vietnam, came back home before he was 21, and he was in the military. He could...
Oh, yeah, and he couldn't get a drink at a bar.
Couldn't get a drink and doing that. He couldn't get a drink at a bar, and finally says, look, I want to go back. He said, no, you don't need to go back. And he said, in the military, I was treated as a grown man. He says, here I'm treated as a kid. I want to go back there and do that.
Amen.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some deprogramming that probably has to happen. Anyone that sees combat, I don't know if it's deprogramming so much as it's
how to live,
decompressing, after all of that, or working through some of the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Because in some of these stories, this was the very early part of the book, was his experience with veterans, particularly Vietnam vets. That's kind of when he got started. Vietnam vets were just starting to have a lot of they came back, they started their lives, right? So it didn't even happen right away. Like, it took a while. And then all of a sudden, some of them maybe even very successful in their careers, but their home life is a giant mess.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gets progressively worse. And they're thinking about things that they experienced with people that were like the best friends they ever had, kind of thing. And then not only that, but like sometimes what they did in response to the things that happened to their best friends, their brothers, right? Because, something happens to the most important person in your life, you kind of lose it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you do some crazy stuff. Although war means you kind of had to do those crazy things, because you learned that, oh, yeah, they did send kids out that were strapped with explosives to kill the American soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I killed a kid. Well, yeah, but they sent that kid to kill you. Like the end of Full Metal Jacket. Right? Wasn't it like a 12-year-old girl or something, or boy, up in a building that's killing all these Americans?
Mm-hmm.
And this poor sucker that had to be the one to end it.
Yeah.
Like that. But then you come back and you try to pretend like our world, our society is very much like, oh, everything's wonderful, and it's not. Like, life is miserable. And somehow we just play it off like, oh, everything's fine,
Yeah.
And we do have a very privileged existence. Western culture, like, for the most part, it's so good and so safe for the most part.
Right.
But that's not all of what happens in this world. So anyway, we blew past my alarm.
Oh, okay. Well,
But here we are. Any more questions about Axel?
nope. You'll have to give me an update, see how he's doing in a few days, I guess, if you hear from him.
Mm.
Is there going to be an adventure, a return adventure?
He's got a train ticket.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Before we left, Lori bought him a train ticket.
I know she wanted him back.
Yeah.
That was her. That was her.
So the
Sorry.
people that have provided the most help for him, also maybe we all do a little too much. And he likes to be free. So we all need somebody to sort of mother us a little bit.
Hen, as he calls
Mother
her.
hen, as he calls her, yes.
Yeah.
We all need somebody to mother, but we also all need to spread our wings and fly, get out on our own, right?
Right.
So that's what I think he's doing, but he did get a train ticket back. He seemed very interested in coming back. Like he wants to come back. He's got this woman that he knows here that, he's always with the ladies, this guy. Like, has always got some lady friend looking out for him, This lady not too far from here, she works nearby, and she actually came here that Sunday that we left with a gift for me. I'm like, what did I do? I'm going on this trip. She must know. Like, oh, you're going to sit in the car with him for 20 hours.
Let me just give you this ahead of time.
Yeah. But it was like, 6 degrees of separation or something like that. 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 3 degrees of destiny. Like, how many steps does it take for us to have a reference to this woman, Destiny? That was basically like constantly. And I would tease him about it too. So I would bring it up. I was like, oh, you mean Destiny. Oh, yeah. So apparently she's going to pick him up and at the train station, maybe, I think.
So he actually has a date?
He has a date. He has a ticket. It's been purchased, paid for. He's just got to get to the train station, which he's a pretty organized guy, pretty resourceful guy.
Yeah.
We'll see. But if you're out there, say a prayer for him. Not sure exactly how he's doing what he's doing each and every day or where he's going. And this is like, kids. They grow up and spread their wings and fly. And, yeah, I don't know where my kid is right now, but they're adults. So let them go. Got to let them go. And even when you're not with them, God is with them.
Yeah.
Right?
He can't be the overprotecting parent.
Yeah. So, all right. Say your prayers for Axel. And let us know any questions you got. And like, share, subscribe. Don't forget these lovely books here. It'll fund our next homeless man turned sober man turned evangelist. How do I? Yeah, there we go. Open Arms, Connecting People to Jesus. The Tales of Nola. Book number 3 is in the works.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
To a bookstore near you.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, y'all. Great to be with you. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is sweeter. Later.